up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Before we get to pretty much anything else, I do want to remind you guys about the merch we have on Millions. We do have those hats available. We've got a couple of shirts up right now, and we are working with Millions to get another shirt up there. So it is just a matter of time until we have some new stuff for y'all to check out. Um, but we are doing this off season's first installment of To Hell with Everyone, and I'm gonna make y'all wait to hear what it's about. But how was your week, and what are you drinking?
Dude, my fucking week is awesome. The Lions going to the NFC Championship, going out to San Fran next Sunday. Boys ready. I've never been more ready. How about you? Okay, if it wasn't obvious, I'm like a handle down of like Southern Comfort, so I'm doing well. How about you?
Oh, dude, I'm doing good. I'm just slowly freezing. You know,
Yeah.
just parts of my body are turning to ice, and by that I mean it was below 40 for most of the day. When I woke up, it was 17 degrees at my house.
Mhm.
Um, and if you're new to the show, I live damn near on the coast in Savannah. So it was low humidity for us today, around 60%. And 60% humidity and 17 degrees is what we like to call fuck that.
Yeah.
It's awful. It
Mhm.
really is. I have not been warm all day, even inside.
It's been fucking miserable. I haven't wanted to do anything outside, and like, you know, the younger me would have been like, I'm tough. I'm from up north. I was born in an igloo. I'm from the snow and shit. Like mid 30s me, fuck that.
Yeah, like
If it's not
why?
50, I'm not going outside.
Why? And
Yeah.
I did actually go play disc golf today when it was windy and 40.
Why?
But
Why?
I had 3 layers on top and some wool socks on.
Hmm.
So, could have been worse.
It could have, yeah,
Could have been
definitely for
worse.
sure. Yeah.
Um, but I do have something to complain about. Why has no one told me what the hell Aldi is? Dude, we went and got a week's worth of food for $100.
You have to go all the way on like well, I guess not the other side of town, but like the south side to get to that point, right?
Yes, but it's like 5 minutes from where Kelsey works.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, dude, I got two grass-fed ribeyes for $13. Not $13 a pound total.
Did you eat it yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. I cannot speak from experience. I'll let, the listeners and viewers determine that. I've never eaten anything from Aldi. I've never personally shopped from there, but I've heard good things. So
Dude, I hate grocery shopping because aisles are so tight and it's loud as hell. You got screaming kids. There's music playing too damn loud. Why do I need to listen to Michael Bublé at Kroger? No one knows.
it's a good point.
But you go to Aldi, there's no music. You can fit 3 carts wide in every aisle. Like why are all grocery stores not doing this? I don't understand.
Hmm.
I really don't. Also, no one told me that when you throw your hat on the ice for a hat trick, that the hats go to guest services and you can get your hat back.
Okay, so I didn't know that either. I saw that like in the Ghost Pirates like fan group like the day after. I had no idea. I thought they were
I'm
on.
I'm a little frustrated because I got a hat a few months back, and I wear two hats. The hat I'm wearing that I wear to work and do yard work and all that kind of stuff, and my nice hat. My nice hat is currently at Enmarket Arena because I threw it on the ice after, well, Kelsey threw it on the ice because she didn't have a hat, and her favorite player got a hat trick yesterday. But now I don't have a nice hat.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I'm a little.
Damn.
They could have been like, hey, anybody threw their hat, it's going to be at guest services after the game, and not post it on Facebook the next day when I'm not
That
there.
That is wild. Like, I don't know how many hat tricks the Ghost Pirates have had in their history, but you would think that they would say, "Hey, if you throw your
Pretty
hat on
sure
the
this
ice,
is the
just go
second
to."
one at a home game.
So, okay, so they should have an idea of like people looking for their hats because you want to be, part of the process and all that.
Oh,
I
dude.
would want
So
my hat back. Like if I threw this shit on the ice, like this is like a 30 something dollar hat. I don't want to
yeah,
just lose it.
yeah. Mine was close to that, and
Yeah,
I was okay with losing it until they said I could get it back, but I didn't know until today.
it's fucked up. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
like if they just never would have said anything, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Yeah, golly. Yeah, that sucks, man.
But I was an adult today and ate dinner before we recorded instead of at 10:30, 11 o'clock. Um, but that means I'm too full to drink anything, so I have no drink.
See, I had ate dinner right before the Lions game at
You
what,
mean
3 o'clock?
lunch?
I'm okay, so Jen and I are old people at heart, so like I mean, even with our jobs, like we eat lunch at like 10 a.m., dinner at like 3:30. So like eating at th dinner at 3 was a little bit early still, but it's what we do. So then I might have a snack like later on at like what normal people would eat at dinner or what time they'd eat at dinner at. But yeah, so but really like my realistically my dinner is just like SoCo. So
There you
here we
go.
go.
Liquid diet, you know?
Hell yeah. I'm
That's what all the rich
health is my
ladies are
passion.
doing, right?
Health is my passion.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into this 2024's first To Hell with Everyone episode. And some of you guys are probably going to be a little upset at this. Just going to be honest. We are talking about the 2015 Georgia Bama game. And we're doing it because of how pivotal of a game it was for the path of the football program.
Mm,
I was personally at that game. It sucked. The entire
yeah.
day was awful. Um, but that was that was kind of the point of no return. Um, so that's kind of why we're talking about it. This is the second loss of Georgia football that we are ever talking about or have ever talked about on the show. But I do think it's. I don't even know if it's that big of an argument to say it's probably the most important loss in the program's history.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so we're going to do it a little bit different this time. Um, so we're going to talk a little bit about a lead up, a little bit about the game, and then some. I put down here big questions. Just things to talk about in within the storyline of the game, because I'm assuming most of you watched it. If you haven't watched it and want a reason to hate yourself, the full game's on YouTube.
So before we even get into it, I hadn't watched it since like the day it happened, and
Correct.
I got pissed off all over again, like legit, like angry watching
Yeah,
this game.
yeah.
So
It
yeah,
was brutal. Um, so lead up to the game, Georgia entered the game number 8 in the country, 4-0, beating ULM, Vandy, South Carolina, and Southern University. That game against Southern University the week before is when Marshall Morgan um, accidentally paralyzed the guy on the field. Um,
yeah,
but they actually talked about it during this broadcast. The University of Georgia is still paying for his health care.
that's awesome though.
Yeah,
It really is. I mean,
yeah,
best case scenario. Yeah,
yeah. Like that's a chance you take when you play the game of football. And it wasn't a dirty hit. It was like it would still be legal today.
10 years
But
later almost. Yeah,
yeah, but sometimes crazy things happen, and the University of Georgia stepped up in that scenario. I mean, they bought the guy a house and made it wheelchair accessible a few years back. Um,
yeah.
so something I do want to talk about. And 2 weeks before this game against South Carolina, Grayson Lambert set the all-time SEC single game completion percentage record against South Carolina with a 24 of 25 or 96% completion percentage day.
It's still mind-boggling that that's a sentence in the English language that is factually accurate. That's it's crazy.
So this is gonna be crazy with all the head injuries and terrible memory I have. I remember where I was watching that game, but not only do I remember where I was, but I remember his incompletion came in the fourth quarter. His single incompletion came late in the game.
I legitimately have no idea what the fuck I was doing. Like I wasn't working. I was first year of teaching during this game. So like I definitely had the weekend off. I have no idea what I was doing.
So I was at my brother's house. It was the first time he had met Kelsey, and my brother used to have the ultimate party house. And he was, I don't know, late 30s at the time. But the best thing about it, he had a TV outside by the pool deck, hot tub on the pool deck, grill next to the hot tub on the pool deck. So we never left. Like
Right? Yeah.
I remember standing in the shallow end of the pool with the TV on and a beer in my hand watching this game.
Damn, man. That's the setup right there.
Oh yeah, and during NFL playoffs, we would just sit in the hot tub. We had a cooler sitting on the edge of the hot tub. We drug the grill over. We wouldn't leave the hot tub for most of the day because it'd be too cold.
Yeah.
You just sit in the
That
hot tub, watch football, grill burgers, drink beer.
hell yeah, guys being dudes. There we go.
Oh, so Bama came into this game 13th in the country. They were 4-1, losing 2 weeks prior to Hugh Freeze's Ole Miss Rebels, when that was later vacated. Beside the point.
Yeah.
Um, and this was Mark Richt's 15th season as head coach in Athens. Um, Brian Schottenheimer, one of the individuals in the game of football that has failed upwards more than just about anybody else you can think of, was the offensive coordinator, and Jeremy Pruitt, um, an individual who has failed upwards and downwards almost simultaneously, was the defensive coordinator.
In his second year as DC in Athens.
What's crazy is his defenses really weren't terrible.
No, they weren't. No. There was people that they're like had like a I think a really like a good faith argument that they wanted Jeremy Pruitt to be the head coach after Mark Richt. Thank God that didn't happen.
Correct, correct. We'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and talk about this. I think the biggest problem for that defense was not scheme; it was level of talent. I mean, you had multiple
Yes.
walk-ons starting
Mhm.
on this defense, and everybody else was like 3 and 4 stars. There was one
Yeah.
5 star, a guy you may remember, name of Trenton Thompson.
What was he really on that team?
Yeah,
I remember seeing Roquan out there, but he was on there like special teams.
yes, yeah.
But
No,
I don't remember. Yeah.
Trenton Thompson, number 78, he was on that team.
Golly, and he was on the fucking 2021 team, was no, he wasn't.
No, no, no. He left after 17 to go to the NFL.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sorry. I'm thinking of somebody else. I can't.
Yeah, he left after 17, went to the NFL, um, played for the Browns for like a year.
Yeah.
Um, and this 2015 Bama staff, on the other hand, may have been the greatest coaching staff ever assembled in college football. I think that it would be an easy argument. Nick Saban, head coach, Kirby Smart, defensive coordinator, Lane Kiffin, defense or offensive coordinator, Mario Cristobal, offensive line coach, Billy Napier, wide receiver coach, former Michigan State head coach, Bobby Williams, tight end coach, Scott Cochran is strength coach, Mel Tucker is a defensive back coach, and then Mike wanted me to add in here Title IX coordinator as well. That is hopefully a joke. Um,
It definitely is. Not Bobby. Shit, Mel Tucker. Not an ally in any
I,
case.
I mean, nothing would surprise me about what was going on in Tuscaloosa in those days.
He was the inclusion coordinator.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so this was one of the times that Georgia was favored over Alabama. Since Saban's first title in Tuscaloosa in 2009, he was only an underdog 5 times. Once against Michigan in the Rose Bowl that happened a few weeks ago, and then the other 4 times were against Georgia.
That that hurts.
Um, Spoiler alert: he lost one of those 4.
That he did. That he did.
That's
Uh,
that's tough.
it still hurts. I mean, we're past it at this
Thanks for
point, but
retiring, Nick.
yeah, appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Go enjoy Lake Burton or wherever the fuck you
Jupiter.
go.
He
Jupiter,
went to Jupiter
Jupiter,
to get more
Florida.
stupider.
Can't go to Alabama to get more knowledge. That's for sure.
Absolutely not. So just a few game notes here. Honestly, we don't have a lot because mostly want to get to the big questions down here.
Mhm.
If Grayson Lambert was 10% better, this would have been a game. Georgia
Mhm.
at multiple points had multiple wide receivers running open. Marlon Humphrey got cooked by Malcolm Mitchell pretty much
Yep.
all day.
Hmm.
I mean, that very first play should have been a touchdown if the ball was thrown accurately.
Hmm.
Healthy Malcolm Mitchell in college was a potential Biletnikoff winner if he would have had a good quarterback.
Yes. I mean, he had what? He had Aaron Murray for what, a
He had
year,
Aaron Murray
two?
for a year, and the year
Yeah.
he had Aaron Murray is when he tore his ACL celebrating with Todd Gurley in the first, like, 4 plays into the season.
Yeah. That's oh yeah. Can't forget that.
Yeah. Um,
But like before we get into like the rest of the game and stuff, how confident were you going into this game? Because I know I, misguided as all can be, were like, yeah, this is the dynasty's dead. Georgia's taking.
um, so I'll give you guys a little bit of a backstory with me in this game. I was a freshman in college. Kelsey and I had met 5 months earlier, and she got one of her friends who had a student section ticket to the game, looked close enough like me. We rented his ID for $150 that neither of us had. We were both college students. For me to go to this game in the student section, right? We woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning and started drinking as she painted my face like Darth Vader for this game. We got to the student section line for a 3:30 game, mind you, at 11 o'clock. And it was already packed like sardines. Like you were shoulder to shoulder with people. There was no comfort in standing. And they didn't open the gates until 2 o'clock.
Fuck.
And it was like 60 and raining. It was shitty. It was real shitty. Um, so, needless to say, I was so confident that I spent money I didn't have. Woke up 4 hours after I had went to bed to get ready for this game. Damn near got hypothermia. And then left after. I still remember this play. I remember the play that I left. Because this is the only time I've ever left a Georgia game before the end of the fourth quarter. It was where we were sitting was in the corner of the end zone by B, front row, by the B and Bulldogs. Like where
Oh.
the visitors come in and out of their locker room.
Mhm.
They were on like the 8 yard line. I turned to Kelsey. I said, "This next play, it's going to be a fake to Derrick Henry. Jake Coker is going to walk into the end zone and we're going to leave." Literally exactly what happened.
Mhm.
And we left. Had to walk 2 miles to the car in the rain,
Drunk.
still drunk because we took some like fancy seasoning bottles and like 10 of them that sealed real well and filled them with rum. Brought them into the game. So yes, definitely drunk. I had paint in my eyes. because it was raining all day,
Yeah.
and I had shitty dollar store face paint on. And as we're walking out of the stadium, Alabama fans in their section,
Oh no.
literally one of them came down and got chest to chest. I wasn't doing anything. I guess I just looked like the guy to fight. And one of them got chest to chest with me. Security had to like move him because I was just trying to leave. I was defeated.
Yeah. Yeah. Ellie.
Um, I will not say what I said to this Alabama player, but I did say something insulting enough to an Alabama player as they were coming out of the locker room from halftime that he attempted to come over the hedges and fight me.
You have to tell me after we're done recording.
Um, and for some reason, my 19-year-old self, that full of piss and vinegar, just I graduated basic training less than a year before that, thought I was hot shit. Um, I picked a defensive lineman to anger.
You couldn't have picked like one of the kickers that like makes
Nope,
like 50% of his kicks, right? No, no,
nope,
that guy.
nope. I
Probably like an all-pro NFL defensive lineman, right?
actually let me look up the roster because I remember what number he was.
Okay.
With all of the brain damage I have, this game is seared into my memory.
God, I
Um,
mean, I remember going into this talking like all this shit to everybody that I knew. They're like, yeah, like the dynasty's dead, like, 6 years after it started. Like I thought for sure, oh, we got Nick Chubb and Sony Michelle and yeah, Grayson Lambert, just coming off that game against South Carolina. I'm like, I was feeling good. I couldn't have been more fucking wrong
um,
about
this is
anything.
this is a name that I'm pretty sure everyone's going to remember. Um, it was Deron Payne.
Oh wow.
Yep,
Wow.
yep.
Oh, okay.
Um, so intelligent is not something that you would call 19-year-old John. Nope. Don't don't accuse me of that, please. Yeah.
We should try to get him on.
Does he? Let's find out if he has anger issues first.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay.
And hopefully he doesn't remember it. And if he does, I will absolutely apologize for it because as a more mature adult, I realized that I said something that should probably have never been said to a grown man. 19-year-old John was not a good person.
I don't think
And
any 19 or a good person, but yeah.
to add to the misery of this game, and I was given permission to talk about this, the CBS cameraman came over to our section and had the camera up, and we were all like, still hyped. It was probably like into the first half. We were all super excited and like yelling and jumping up and down. And then a minute later, he looks over at us, waves us down, gives us a thumbs up as Kelsey's getting a phone call. CBS put Kelsey on national television looking like she was crying. And it wasn't tears. She was not crying. Um, it was pouring down rain. We were standing in an inch of water. Like it was pouring down. She looked sad. It looked like she was crying, but no. And that was just water dripping down her face. Um, it
But she looked fucking miserable. Like I've seen the screenshot of it before.
it was miserable.
Yeah. I mean, as one would expect for sure. But wow.
Yeah. Um, the worst part? She spent 2 hours painting my face that morning, and my shoulder was in the shot. But
Damn.
the funny thing, after Georgia won the title in 2021, she posted a side by side of that picture and a picture of us right after the game. and said something about like the tides have turned or something.
Hmm.
You know, just she told me that I should post that picture with this episode.
There we go. Sweet, sweet, sweet.
Um, but getting back to the game itself, you could tell pretty much by the second drive that Georgia was overmatched. It was a completely these teams were on different levels. Uh, Georgia was slower, weaker, smaller, less aggressive. Like this Georgia team looked a lot like this past year's Florida team with the
Yeah,
way
that's a
they
good point.
played.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think it's credit to the coaches on how they still managed to win 9 games,
Well, 10 with the bowl game, right?
10 with the bowl game.
Yeah.
But that bowl game was with an interim coach.
Lennon.
Yep, Brian McClendon, who is undefeated as an interim coach, at least in bowl games.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, one thing that I do think is funny about this one, at one point they took a game break to talk about how Alabama was on the cutting edge of sports science because they had oxygen tanks on the sideline, and it
Really?
is
Like 9 years ago?
yeah, it is
Hmm.
wild how normal it is now when Alabama was one of the only college teams that did it in 2015.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Um, and this game was pretty much over after Bama took a 10-3 lead.
Mhm. Yeah, like Bama scored like I think like 21 in the second quarter. Like I mean, just like block punt for a touchdown. Just I mean, super demoralizing by the time it hit halftime.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And especially if you were standing there in an inch of water. And I had brand new Jordans on.
Oh God, it's the
And the
worst.
reason I wore them is because I was taking psychology at the time. I hated psychology. I wasn't good at psychology. But I had just gotten an A on the midterm without studying wearing those shoes. I was like, they're good luck.
There you
They
go.
weren't.
Yeah.
They were not.
No, definitely not. No.
Nope. Nope.
God.
Do you have anything else about the game you want to talk about before we get into some of these questions?
Um. So like Nick Chubb was like pretty much bottled up the entire game. Uh he broke like an 83-yard run, I think in like I want to say like the third quarter, where he extended his like streak of like 100-yard rushing games to 13 at that point. Got broke the next week because he his knee exploded at in
Brutal.
knee. So that season fucking sucked. I mean,
Yep.
just all around. We like my so like 2015. So again, this before the year before Kirby came, the year Mark Richt got fired. My brother wanted to come down and see a game in between the hedges, and I was able to get tickets for me and him. I want to say like all together with like ticket fees and shit. I probably paid like $30 for like 50-yard line, like on the Georgia sideline at like maybe like row 10 or whatever. I mean, granted you get blocked out by a lot of stuff and like everybody was hurt at that point, but we went to like the Kentucky game that year and the weather was miserable for that game as well. And it was like the stadium was like half full. And like I just remember like, God, man, I this is the this is the what other people see about this program. It was very disappointing because like I know like what it could be, and obviously we've seen the past few years what it should be. But I mean we got in super cheap to that. Saw a win against Kentucky nonetheless. Like uh, Terry Godwin was like Wildcat quarterback for a decent part of that game, but um, I mean that was a completely like lost season.
Yeah.
All yeah.
I mean, Fatan Bauta started the Florida game.
What time?
Kelsey had a
I
class with
remember.
him that year too.
What's that?
Kelsey had a class with him that year too.
I I only had classes like with like basketball players that I remember when I was there, but like I remember when they started him, like leading up to that game, I'm like, this is the answer. Like I was not mad at Mark Richt at that point, and then as
No.
soon as that game started, I realized I could not have been more wrong.
Yep. I feel like that's the definition of the season. As soon as the game
Yeah.
started, I realized I could not have been more wrong.
Mhm. Just for everything. It was very, very disappointing.
At
Like
first,
that.
it was Grayson Lambert isn't a good quarterback. South Carolina happens.
Mhm.
Grayson Lambert is a good quarterback. Bama happens. There was no winning with any thoughts during this season.
And even they benched Grayson Lambert for fucking Bryce Ramsey, who ended up being a punter the following year. And even then, I think he threw a pick six.
Yep.
Like, I mean, just all of that together was super demoralizing. Like, there's a
So
reason why this was like the thing that fired got Mark Richt fired, but we'll get into that.
so getting into that a little bit and going back to the Nick Chubb big long touchdown. When he broke that run when we were about 5 steps outside of the stadium.
Damn.
I could not have had a worse day that day.
No, no.
Oh, and when we got, I'm pretty sure I don't remember if it was this time. Pretty sure when we got to Kelsey's car, the battery was dead. Like it was that kind of day.
I mean, might as well. I mean, just pour it all into one day, right?
Yeah. Um, and then so I'll ask this question now. You know what? We'll wait. So was Nick Saban using just for men, or did the last 5 years just age him like the presidency? Because he still had dark hair in
Yeah.
2015.
I feel like it was the last few years. I mean, with the portal and NIL and just like, Kirby breathing down his back and all that. I feel like it's the last few years that really got him. 'Cause I mean, like when they won the first championship in '09, like he looked young still. I mean, he was like his what, late 50s at that point. So,
He's 72 now,
59.
so yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, I I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's not Ryan Day using it. That's for sure.
that's fair. That's fair. Um, is Jake Coker the worst quarterback to have a win over Georgia in the last decade?
Who was the quarterback that started for South Carolina in 2019?
DeCarrion Joyner, not
He's
even a
the one.
quarterback anymore.
Well, at the time it was him. Well, Coker
Yeah,
won a national championship, right?
he won a national championship, one of the best offensive lines ever, one of the best defenses ever,
Oh, and Derrick Henry.
and and not to mention Kenyon Drake.
Yeah. Yep. Hmm.
So, you know, I think Jalen Milroe is a better quarterback than Jake Coker,
Yeah. 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 For sure.
and DeCarrion Joyner is a hell of an athlete,
Mm.
and Jake Coker was just 2015 AJ McCarron.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm having a brain fart. Not AJ McCarron because he's still in the NFL or XFL, whatever contract he's
No.
on
Yeah.
still.
You mean Greg McElroy?
Greg McElroy.
Yeah.
Okay, this is when we're getting into real questions. Is this the best matchup of running back rooms, possibly in SEC history? I mean, you had Nick Chubb and Sony Michelle going against Derrick Henry and Drake.
Yeah, man.
Sony
Oof.
Michelle has 2 Super Bowl rings. Nick Chubb led the NFL in rushing 3 years in a row.
Mhm.
Derrick Henry is treating guys like damn Lego figures on the NFL field.
And he had like
And
a
Ken,
2,000 yard rushing season. Like
yeah,
what? Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
Kenyon
That's
Drake
crazy.
just hasn't been on a good team.
Yeah. Mhm. I thought for sure that Kenyon Drake would be a guy, but I
Man,
mean, still, I mean, he's still a guy in college though.
during his last season on the Cardinals, the Kenyon Drake over receiving yards play of the year. I hit that almost every week.
Hell yeah.
And one week it came down to the fourth quarter and he had a 70-yard reception.
There we go.
But no, I think it's a good argument because if you're talking about a two duos, that's not something that they had back in the day when you're talking about Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker
Mhm.
and then in the 90s not really you didn't have duos and when you did it wasn't guys like this. I the only argument you might be able to make is if they had what the Auburn Arkansas '06.
That's what I was about to say. I was like, was it like Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams versus what Felix Jones and um uh how was his name?
Yeah, the most famous one that neither of us can remember right now.
Darren McFadden. There we go.
Darren McFadden.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
That would have been it. But yeah, I think this one ended up being better as far as like at least like NFL success.
I mean, Derrick Henry won a Heisman.
Mhm.
Nick Chubb
And
and Sonny
had
Michelle
success in
are
the NFL too.
yeah, and Nick Chubb and Sonny Michelle are the running back duo that lead Georgia, who's still arguably RBU, in combined yards.
Hmm. Yeah, what they're like both what top four, top five in like rushing in school history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What was the point where you knew Mark Richt was done in Athens?
It was certainly during this game. I would say honestly, it was the blocked punt that was returned for a touchdown that I just kind of threw up my hands and like this is it. I mean you could throw in there too when he decided to like in that same game to move away from Grayson Lambert and go to Bryce Ramsey, which again I was naive me thinking, okay, this is the answer. Obviously Grayson Lambert isn't the guy. Bryce Ramsey, secret weapon. He couldn't hold on to the fucking ball, threw a pick six. I mean, it really was during this game, I think that most of like Dog Nation realized that this was the end. Uh, it's as bad as that is to say. I mean, the man gave 15 years of his life to the university, and it really and brought it back to prominence. But it was at this point, it's like okay, kind of what in a way Ohio State's doing, but I mean it's different because obviously they had Urban Meyer there before, but kind of like with what James Franklin's doing at Penn State. It's like okay, yeah, you're winning 10 games a year, but are you going
Yep.
to do more than that? You've hit
Yep.
a plateau. Are you good with just being good or do you want to be great? And I think that's where, the administration, the athletic department decided that, enough was enough. 15 years is a long time. It's literally a lifetime to be at a job, especially at, high level, college football. So,
I
I
mean,
mean,
Georgia
it
was
was during
one
this game.
play away from a national title 3 years before this.
Hmm. And even in that game, I know, you were what 4 or 5 yards away from, if that ball wasn't caught and were able to spike it or
If
whatever.
it wasn't caught, if it wasn't tipped,
Hmm.
if he'd thrown to the other side, like there's so many things about that play that went wrong
Yeah. They did the one thing in that play that they couldn't do or they shouldn't have done to end
three
that game.
times.
Yeah. And I'll say it. I'll say it here. Like even in that, okay, going back to that 2012 game, SEC championship, um, like the whole day, it didn't feel I until like that last drive. I didn't think Georgia had a chance in that game, even though watching and keeping up with it. And obviously, I was disappointed that it didn't work out. But just 2015, I'm like, okay, this is never going to happen with Mark Richt. And again, everybody loves Mark Richt, all world, just person and all that, obviously. But it really was this game that blocked punt return, benching Grayson Lambert for Bryce Ramsey, and not working. Then going back to Grayson Lambert, that I just said, this isn't it.
So the moment that knew it wasn't even during the game because, at a certain point, you're like, okay, quarterback was a lot of the problem today. You've got five-star Jacob Eason coming in next year. You got a lot of good receivers coming in next year. You know, like it's still, we're still just a couple pieces away.
Hmm.
And then after the game, I don't remember what play it's about, but after the game, I listened to the to Mark Richt's press conference over the radio because we finally got in the car and got it started, and we were heading back to the house. And I don't remember what play it was about, but someone asked a question, and Mark Richt, after 15 years at Georgia, said, "I'll be honest, I didn't know what to do."
Oh no.
And I, I turned to Kelsey in the car. I was like, "That's it. I think this is his last
Mm.
season." It's like you
It,
can't
I mean, it felt that's as helpless as I felt as a fan, like ever. I
ever.
mean, even rewatching the game, I was like, what do something, and they couldn't do anything. I mean, obviously the weather was shitty and all that, but like it felt helpless from the end of the first quarter on. There's nothing you can do in it. You're just waiting for this game to be over.
Yeah, yeah. No, the whole it was miserable.
Hmm.
Um, so, last question before we move on to a couple of other sports. If Georgia had won this game, what would the aftermath have looked like? And just here's a couple of things to think about. Bama would have had two losses in the last 3 weeks, back-to-back SEC losses. Georgia still would have been second in the East that year. Florida only lost one game. But Ole Miss would have won the West with a tiebreaker over Bama.
Damn.
Like, like long term, short term, what do you think would have happened if Georgia had won this game?
I mean, if you still would have lost that game to Florida, I mean, with the the Bauta game, I st honestly I still think Mark Richt would have been out because I mean, I think the fan base and again administration were kind of over the. I mean, they would have won 11 games at that point, like with the bowl game if you would have counted that. But well, I guess that all would have changed. They would have played somebody else. But um, golly, I don't know. Like, I think it would have been an even harder sell to the fan base and just everybody to fire Mark Richt if you had won that game. You beat Nick Saban, that year and all that. So that is tough. I mean, for the long-term health of the program, obviously, this low point that we're talking about right now was for the best for everybody. But, at the time, who knew?
So, I probably have spent an unhealthy amount of time thinking about this today. Um, Georgia wins this game. In all reality, if they won this game, Grayson Lambert probably played with his hair on fire, probably starts against Florida. That's either a closer game or a win. If it happens to be a win, Georgia would have played Ole Miss in Atlanta, right?
Hmm.
Probably would have lost Ole Miss, if we're being honest,
Yeah,
just because this is the same Ole Miss team that beat Georgia like a drum the next season.
yeah.
But I think Mark would have had. I think beating Alabama would have bought him at least 2 more years because he had a top five class coming in the next year.
Yeah, I mean the Jacob Eason thing was a huge deal. Like why, like a lot of people were upset that they had fired Mark Richt because you did not want to lose Jacob Eason, right?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, spoiler alert, they didn't lose Jacob Eason, but that's beside the point.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and here's where it gets a little crazy. Kirby Smart would have probably gone to be the head coach at South Carolina
Yep.
because Georgia and South Carolina offered him the job, and him being an alumni of the University of Georgia is probably why he ended up choosing that job. Because I'm pretty sure South Carolina was offering more money.
Hmm.
Mark Richt gets 2 more years. South Carolina starts to rise, be a good team under Kirby Smart. Mark Richt gets fired in 2017. You know what happened in 2017?
Nathan Addy.
Jimbo Fisher leaves Florida State. We could be, if Georgia won this game, we could be talking about it's time for Georgia to fire Jimbo.
Thank God.
Yeah, like I mean, if you really think about it, and winning this game, getting Jacob Eason buys Mark Richt until the end of 2017, Jimbo Fisher might be coaching in Athens.
And you know what? And them hiring Jimbo Fisher would have been like, I think most of us would have been, I know I would have been at that time. We're like, hell yeah, this dude just came off of a national championship a couple years ago. He
Yep,
has Florida State rolling. Um,
yep,
well, not that last year before he left, but like, obviously he won a national championship, which is something that, Georgia hadn't had as a head coach since, Vince Dooley was there. I mean, we would have been all in the Hopium. So
yeah,
oof.
yeah. So, so kind of to close out this part of the episode, as much as it sucked, as much as it still sucks to think about and go back and watch like we punished ourselves and did,
Mhm.
this loss turned the program into what it is now.
Mhm.
So, thank you, Nick Saban? Question mark.
E- e- Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't have two national championships, two SEC championships, to come out of that. So yeah, thank you for embarrassing the fucking shit out of us in
I
2015 because it was better for us.
I wonder if after this game, Kirby probably inevitably heard about Mark Richt. I didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
I wonder if he was sitting at the airport on the plane headed back to Tuscaloosa, whatever, and thought, I'm probably going to be coaching there next year, or I could be coaching there next year.
It had to have crossed his mind for sure
Had
because I
to.
mean, I would like to think that in the back of his mind that he could have took a job. I mean, he was so at that point he had been the defensive coordinator for what, at least 7 years, right? If not 8 or 9,
I
right?
believe so. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, obviously he was holding out for like a big time job. He wasn't going to go work at fucking South Alabama or Arkansas State or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
Like he was holding out for a big job, and that was all likelihood, like you said, that was probably going to be South Carolina because I remember I think he was talking about Mary Beth, like his wife talking about going over houses and shit in Columbia when Georgia ended up calling them,
Yeah. Like he'd already
interview.
interviewed with
Yeah.
South Carolina, and South Carolina had a job offer sent to him,
Hmm.
and then he got the call
Yeah.
from
Come home.
yeah, to come home.
Yeah. And thank God. Yeah, man. What a
If we ever have the opportunity to talk to Kirby Smart, that is one of the questions I want to ask. During that game where it was miserable as hell in October of 2015,
mhm.
was there any thought about I could be the head coach here next year?
I would have asked him too. Like, okay, so like, forgetting that your status as an alumni or alumnus, what you and your wife obviously graduating from there. What like if you had no allegiance to the state whatsoever, you weren't from here, let's say you were from out of the South or whatever. Like, what job would you have taken? Because at that point, South Carolina might have been a better job, maybe.
2015 was a terrible year for South Carolina. I mean, they
Yeah.
had just hired or fired Steve Spurrier halfway through the season.
Hmm.
Um, but South Carolina had been on Georgia's level up until 2015.
And beat them a couple times, like
Yeah,
in 2012 too, right?
yeah,
That beat the shit out of them.
yeah, yeah. That one was bad.
Yeah. So that would have been something to ask. Realistically, all things equal, which job would you have taken if you didn't have any allegiance to Georgia at all? So that would have been interesting. But
Someday we might get to talk to Kirby.
mhm.
If you guys share with your friends the show and we get big enough, we'll talk
If
to
we can
Kirby.
just win the fucking best of Savannah, we'll have him on this time next year. Let's fucking go.
Oh, Mike is writing checks his ass can't cash.
This time next year, January 21st or whatever the fucking yeah, January 21st, right after the parade.
Just a little bit of
Talk to Kirby.
disclaimer. I am not saying that this is guaranteed. Mike is. I am not.
I am right after the third championship in 4 years. We'll talk to Kirby.
There you go. Making all. You know what? I'm just gonna knock on wood for the rest of the episode. I'm glad my desk is wood. So we are going to go ahead and move on to basketball a little bit. Mike, you want to take basketball, and then I'll do the next one.
Yeah. All right. So earlier this week, Georgia beat South Carolina in Columbia. It was on Tuesday, so it was 5 6 days ago. But it's the first time that Georgia had won in Columbia
In
and beat the
basketball.
Cox there. What?
In basketball.
In basketball, yeah, I should say. First time they beat the Cox in Columbia in over 2,000 days. So
South
you,
Carolina fans were so mad at the officiating. We
mm,
obviously, we've told you guys, we can't watch these games because every time we do, they lose.
mm,
But South Carolina fans were very mad over the officiating.
very mad. But again, Georgia at that point, undefeated in SEC play, undefeated on the road, just in general, not neutral site games, but true road games, undefeated at that point. Uh, so they won the game, big game, and then on Saturday, the Dogs lost to number 8 Kentucky, 105 to 96. It was a 15-point plus lead for most of the game. Kentucky got their big Croatian unicorn back. Well, there for the first time. He actually played, which weren't totally sure if he was going to play or not. But he came out there and played and just freaking dominated that game. And again, most of the game, Kentucky was up by double digits, 15 plus. But toward the end of the game, Georgia made it a game and made it a single digit game. Again, winning. Yeah,
No, I mean, we're coming from 2 years ago. I watched Georgia lose to uh, George Mason. Is that a school?
yeah. Mhm.
I watched Georgia lose to George Mason by 20 points 2 years ago. On Saturday, they lost by 9 to number 8 Kentucky.
Which I know we don't talk a ton of college basketball on the show. We probably will closer to March, but I would put a future in on Kentucky right now. Whatever the odds are, that team, especially with the the kid, the big Z that they got back or got for the first time cleared by the NCAA, big center unicorn. Put money on them to win as a future to win the NCAA tournament because they're fucking legit.
And not, well, they always flounder in the tournament for the most part. But
Yeah. Cal only has one championship at Kentucky.
96 points, I'm pretty sure, is their season high, including against no name schools that they played.
Hmm.
So, not good, but better.
Yeah, they made it respectable. You losing by 9 to a top 10 Kentucky team in at Rupp Arena is not bad, even
It
though
could
it
be a
looked
lot
pretty
worse.
hopeless most of the game. But so with that said, so Georgia's 13-5 overall record, 3-2 in the SEC so far. So I mean, for the most part, we're still in a good spot in terms of positioning for the SEC tournament in March. And again, as always, as it should be, the goal should be just make the NCAA tournament, make March Madness, and just everything else is a bonus at this point, especially in year two of Mike White, which you've seen a marked improvement over last year, and even again like you said 2 years ago. So
You know,
hopeful that we make the tournament. That should be the expectation every year, especially with the money that's in the program and all that and everything that we're talking about. But we're
get
still
in
in
as
good.
a 16 seed, get bounced by 20 points, and that'll be the first time they've made the tournament in, what, a decade
Mhm.
or more.
I think since I've lived in this state, I want to say we've only made the tournament twice, and both of those years were under Mark Fox, which we got bounced in the first game.
Yeah. Like, I just get there.
Yeah,
Just get there.
that's all. That's it. I mean, you can, there's lesser things to hold the hang banners for. You can just put NCAA tournament appearance up there. It's a win.
Yeah. No, I agree. And on top of that, the recruiting in basketball has been great. So hopefully it's only up from here.
Mhm. They got a 5-star kid coming in next year that's supposed to be really good. So
Dominique
hopefully they hold
Wilkinson's
them.
coming in.
That too. Next year is the year that you have real expectations to like actually make a run. But this year, make the
Make
tournament.
a run past the first game of the tournament.
Even that shit. If you were round of 32, let's go.
Yeah, like we're not expecting this to be a Kirby Smart turnaround of the program,
No,
but
not second year of the program making the national championship. That's no, that's not gonna happen.
these sort of significant improvements are what we want to see, and it's what we're seeing. So I really couldn't be happier considering where we were 2 years ago.
We want to be entertained until baseball season.
Yes, but also we can't watch the games, so we want you
Right.
to be entertained until baseball season.
We're so selfless.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll find other
Um,
shit to do. Just we can't watch basketball.
Speaking of other shit to do, Georgia hockey, the Ice Dogs. They won the Savannah Classic last weekend, beating Georgia Tech like a drum, beating Florida. This weekend they beat Clemson 7-3 on Friday, Alabama 7-4 yesterday. They are ranked 10th in AAU college hockey, which is national rankings for college club hockey. Third in College Hockey South, which is the conference they play in. And if you're looking for something to do, can't watch basketball like us, every single Georgia hockey game is live streamed on YouTube. Every single
We're
one of them.
free. You don't have to pay for
For
that.
free. Get on YouTube, hit that square up top, connect it to your TV, watch the Ice Dogs, show them some love, and yeah, let's hope Georgia hockey beats Tampa this year like they lost to them last year in the national semifinals.
Let's go. Let's go.
If it's in Florida again, I may see if I can convince Kelsey to go to that game or at least one of the games in that tournament.
Hmm. That'll be fun. Hockey, I mean, if you've never been to a hockey game, just like, I mean, semi-pro, college, or whatever, it's fun, regardless of like what level it is. Whether, yeah, ECHL, AHL, whatever. It's a good time.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, we go to the Ghost Pirates games all the time. We went last night. The same day Georgia beat Bama 7-4, the Ghost Pirates lost 7-4.
Everything balances out.
It does. It does. As soon as I saw the final score, because I was watching it and switching back for between NFL games and stuff, tell Kelsey I was like, at least one of my teams was on the good side of a 7-4 game today. Oh, all right, guys.
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and get out of here for this episode. But if you want to get notified when we're putting out this merch that we're working on with millions, follow us on our social media at nothing.finer.pod, at finerpod, Instagram and Twitter respectively, Facebook and YouTube. Just search us there. You'll find us. Rate and review the show 5 stars. Send us a screenshot. We will send you a sticker. And please, please vote for us in Connect Savannah. Help us out that way. Help us spread the word locally. Spread the word with friends. We could always use the support here. But as
Got nine
always,
days left.
remember, do what?
So we got 9 days left in this nomination round, and then we got a little bit after that. So keep voting.
Yes. Yes, and we'll keep posting it. But as always, remember, there is nothing finer in the land.
That a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.